Good morning, Monday, April 7th. This is Terry Allen, and this is dialogue on tariffs. Everybody's freaking out about tariffs. Wall Street's tanking, crypto's tanking, and the reason is because this is upsetting the matrix of the way the world economy works, the way that the globalists have set it up. You got to realize that in 1776, when the colonies finally had it with the British, the reason was because of, religious freedom, freedom from taxation, without representation, all the other stuff that you've heard. But the number one thing was that the British East India Company was dumping products on our shores below the cost of production, which was wiping out our industries here, our fledgling industries, making shoes, etc., clothing, to keep us in perpetual poverty so that we could be controlled. And that's exactly what has happened in the last 30 or 40 years since the oil crisis in 1973, 1974, which was fake. Oh my God, all of a sudden we don't have any oil. Look at the lines. Oh my, the price of gas is skyrocketing. Oh, what shall we do? Well, that was all fake. That was from your buddy, your wonderful friend, Henry Kissinger. He did that, and the reason was for that is that the Middle East countries could then afford to buy weapons from us. And then we could start wreaking havoc over there, taking over these countries' natural resources, their oil specifically. And that was what it was all about. The United States, when founded, our number one source for money was tariffs. About 95% of the money that the government ran on was from tariffs. And that was called protectionism. And that was instigated by Alexander Hamilton because he understood exactly what was going on. And that's what they did. And then there was a fight over tariffs for, decades and decades after that. And then in 1913, you finally had the Federal Reserve, and you finally got the income tax, federal income tax, the IRS, which switched it around so then the globalists didn't have to worry about these inconvenient tariffs, and they could start making money off of free trade, which is what they called free trade, the Adam Smith, Milton Friedman bullshit, lies and bullshit, because there's no such thing as free trade. What the industries did specifically in the 80s under Reagan was they started moving offshore to these cheap labor pools in China specifically, so that the CEOs and the stockholders could make a fortune, because they would bring all these products back to the United States and sell them at much higher profit rates. But here's the problem. They laid off hundreds of thousands of American workers, which then had to go on welfare. And then when they got jobs, most of the jobs they got were with wages that were half of what they were making. And that's where you got the Rust Belt. That's where you got the devastation of our economy. And it's been happening ever since. And so, yes, we need to get back to that system. The problem is we've been living off of cheap labor overseas for decades. And it has completely wrecked our economy. We have not had real income wages increased for 30 years. It wrecked the unions. It wrecked everything. And who made a profit? The globalists, the oligarchies, the CEOs of the major corporations, and the stockholders. And who took it in the shorts? The middle class. And that's what happened. And so now, to get back to the system that we had, where we can all start having prosperity again, is we've got to get the protectionism put back in place to protect our industries so that we can grow our manufacturing again and become a manufacturing nation with high wages, high incomes, a growing middle class. And it's going to take some time, and it's because of that we've been living off of these cheap products and our incomes have been wrecked. So now it's going to take a while, and it's going to be painful, and that is going to cause inflation for a while. But what's going to happen is inflation is going to go way down, and we're going to recover some of these costs. It's going to take a couple of years, but only Trump can do this. It's because he's the only one that's not tied in with these globalist scumbags, these psychopath lunatics that want to just wreck everything, and so they can sit on top of the pile. What did Milton say? It's better to serve in hell. It's better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. Was one of the oligarchs' famous mantras. So that's in defense of tariffs. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. Everybody's crying about it. Oh my God, the stock market is crashing. Yeah, well, that's what's happening because the stock market is living off of the free trade, the imbalance of trade. They've been living off of this profit that they should not have been getting in the first place. The profits should have been going back to the middle class, but they were being stripped. And that's where we're at. And that's why our economy is in such a wreck. And the only way we're going to fix it is to get back to the tariff system. So once the IRS has been dismantled, and once the American people don't have to pay income tax, federal income tax anymore, then they will start to realize that this system's not really so bad after all. It's actually quite good. So with Doge wiping out these slush funds for the oligarchy and the CIA, wiping out all this fraud, we're going to be able to save about $1 trillion a year, wiping out all this fraud and waste and corruption. And with the tariffs, protecting our industries so that Americans can buy America first. That's a great slogan, buy American. Yeah, buy American. I'm all for it. But when you go to, for instance, Home Depot, the American products are 20% higher. And that's the reason. Because it costs more to make products in the United States. Because of countries with cheap labor are dumping their products on our shores that are wrecking our industries. So we are living off of the backs of slave labor, essentially. And that's going to end. And things are going to turn around. And it's going to be painful. But only Trump can do this. Because only Trump has the guts to stand up against the globalists. He's got Elon Musk, which is very interesting because Elon Musk has made his fortunes from Tesla, which is made in the United States, and SpaceX, and different industries that he's got. Some of them actually are in China. And so if he was a true oligarch, then he would be totally against tariffs. But he's not. So that's an interesting point that you've got to understand. The difference between Elon Musk and all these other rich scum psychopaths. All right, I got to go. That's in defense of tariffs. All right, have a great day, and don't panic, okay? Just don't panic. Let's roll with this, and let's make it work, all right? Thank you. Take care. This is Terry Allen. This is real progress, not a Pinot. And like and subscribe, okay? All right, take care. Bye.